Now, promise gone wrong number 4. Government will give everyone health insurance, but for less money. That was a big one.
This was the triumphant signing ceremony. And then they gave the speaker a birthday celebration. Look at the big smiles. They were thrilled that their Affordable Care Act would give insurance to many more people for less money.
Can you imagine a more important birthday privilege than to be signing health care for all Americans?
Speaker Pelosi wouldn't talk to us about health care, nor would anyone from the administration. They told us to talk to Ron Pollock of Families USA, a group that fought for Obamacare.
Giving people all these things, doesn't that create some unintended consequences, some bad stuff?
I don't think it creates bad stuff. It means that people can get preventive care.
No unintended consequences coming up now?
No, I don't believe that for a moment.
But I keep hearing about problems.
What we've got is rising premiums. We've got people being dropped from their health insurance plans. We've got health insurance companies fleeing the market.
The president told us,
if you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. Let me repeat that. If you like your plan, you'll be able to keep it.
But Principal Financial has completely left the health insurance market. Their 1 million customers will have to find insurance elsewhere. Also,
3 insurance companies are dropping standalone child policies.
WellPoint, Humana, Cigna, gotten out of the child-only business.
Well, the child-only business is less than 1% of those
Principal Financial Group got out of the whole business.
The fact that some marginal company drops out of the market
altogether. Some million
altogether,
customers, not that marginal.
Yeah, but let them go out of business. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
No, not a problem.
When there are what the administration considers problems, they make exceptions.
100-plus employers have obtained waivers from the administration, which allows their workers to opt out of the new law.
So far, they've given out more than 100 free passes.
The biggest single waiver by the federal government was for the United Federation of Teachers.
But if this is such a good law, why do the politicians give waivers to those who kiss their ring?
No,
sounds like cronyism.
The administration is taking a look at individual circumstances where a major change needs to be made by 2014. And
more than 100 already? A third of them to unions in New York City? It sounds like a scam.
Well, I think that's a misinterpretation of what is happening.
And then there's the cost problem.
My proposal would bring down the cost of health care.
Not so far. Prices are up.
Facing rate increases of 1% to 9%.
Obamacare is just faith-based policy making. This idea that we can give people all sorts of benefits and there aren't going to be any costs.
Of course, maybe the problems were not unintended. Maybe Obamacare's supporters meant to kill off private insurance companies and leave us with government-run health insurance. But if that was their intent, there was still one unintended consequence.
The Republicans have gained control of the House of Representatives.
Next, politicians' promise number 3. They're going to solve our energy problem. You know, we're running out of this, or we buy too much of it from Arab sheiks. Their solution, take your money and give it to Americans who make ethanol.
Renewable, homegrown fuels.
Ethanol subsidies bring both parties together. After all, Americans can grow it and create
a nation that is stronger, cleaner, and more secure.
One that protects our national security, safeguards our environment, and promotes economic growth. Ethanol. Now is the time.
No, it's not.
Corn-based ethanol has been a case study in the law of unintended consequences.
Oh my gosh, something I can agree with Senator McCain about. He could not see the unintended consequences of things like McCain-Feingold, but at least he sees them for ethanol subsidies.
We should not be subsidizing ethanol.
We're trying to change America's fuel consumption pattern.
General Wesley Clark now fights for ethanol.
In 2008, we paid over $50 billion to the Saudi government for imported oil.
And we're still doing it even though we're paying you guys a ton.
The point is that the money that's paid on ethanol is money that stays within the American economy.
It does, but at what cost? The Congressional Budget Office says for each gallon of gas replaced with ethanol, we pay $1.78 in subsidy. But at least our money stays in the country.
It makes me feel good. I'm keeping the money in America.
All these programs are designed to make people feel good. We're going to help the farmers and we're going to hurt the foreign oil producers with ethanol. And we don't look at what is not seen, which is the rising price of milk and the excessive amount of fertilizer and fuel that was used to produce this additional corn.
Oh yeah, food prices are higher because so much farmland now goes to corn used for ethanol. And we consume lots of corn. Corn syrup sweetens thousands of foods. It helps create the meat we eat.
Corn's our biggest item.
Steve Fogelsong, who raises cattle, is mad that feed costs more now because ethanol is both mandated and subsidized.
If you want to do the same thing for me that you're doing for the ethanol guy, then you have to mandate that absolutely every man, woman, and child in America has to eat 50 pounds of beef, and then you're going to turn around and give me $2 a hundredweight on these steers. Then we're at the same place.
But the ethanol industry wants more subsidies while talking about free markets.
You should have free market competition.
Well, a free market means no subsidies.
Exactly. But it also means...
But you've been getting subsidies for years. Stop.
We're ready to transition out of the subsidies.
Okay,
but,
tomorrow?
Well, it depends. Can you give us a chance so that Americans can have a choice as to what they put in their pumps?
By choice, he means government should now pay to have gas stations install these special ethanol pumps. But government didn't install gasoline pumps. Entrepreneurs did.
If the public wants it, service stations will do it. Why does the taxpayer have to pay $75,000?
Because it's like anything else. You've got to get it started.
You're a parasite feeding off the taxpayer. Stand on your own feet.
We're ready to stand on our own feet. To do that, it needs a fair playing field.
Fair? They want more subsidy when ethanol already gets $50 billion of your dollars, increases the cost of food, and, as it turns out, isn't even better for the environment than gasoline.
Corn ethanol is responsible for incredible environmental harm.
Ben Schreiber works for the environmental group Friends of the Earth. The Green Lobby once supported ethanol, but now they say
the environmental consequences of corn ethanol are worse than the environmental consequences of gasoline.
But this makes no sense. It was being done because of you environmental groups saying, oh, don't use oil. Oil's bad.
But now that we've studied corn ethanol more fully, we realize that it actually has worse consequences than gasoline.
So, whoops, we were wrong. But now we can't undo it?
We're fighting to undo it.
But government programs are almost never undone.
Boondoggles live forever. You know, I said Cash for Clunkers was the dumbest program ever, but it's a lot smaller than ethanol. So ethanol might be pound for pound the dumbest program ever.
Promise gone wrong number 2. Government can increase home ownership.
We want more people owning their own home.
Some politicians even promised
our home ownership strategy will not cost the taxpayers 1 extra cent.
It hasn't worked out that way.
These experts in the housing bubble point out not only did our policy cost taxpayers billions, it also
killed neighborhoods, it's ruined people's lives, it gave people an illusion they could afford something they couldn't afford, rich and poor.
I'm told greedy bankers caused the bubble.
Government exaggerates rather than minimizes the age-old impulse to greed. The government made it harder for bankers who wanted to do the right thing.
Because if a banker stayed with safe loans, he missed out on profit he could make selling lots of high-risk loans to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
If he was making good loans, he might only be earning 8% rather than 20%. Maybe he loses his job as CEO.
The most damage was done through the bundling of bad loans at Fannie and Freddie. But some was done by a law that requires banks to lend to disadvantaged people.
Make the goal of affordable housing a goal that is obtainable for all Americans.
So Congress told banks, make loans in poor neighborhoods, or we may not let you merge with other banks. Phyllis Saloke runs an advocacy group that uses the law to demand that banks make more loans.
We said to banks, you have to make special products that are affordable to low and moderate income people, particularly women and minorities. Any bank merging knows they have to come and talk to us.
A bank that wants to merge has to talk to you?
They don't want us standing in front of their bank picketing. Whether we stand up dressed as a turkey at Thanksgiving and saying this bank's a turkey.
Sounds like you're running an extortion racket. Give us money or we'll stop your merger.
We say, lend money.
Isn't that kind of like extortion?
It's the law. The law gives us the right to do it.
Even worse, government pushed mortgages that require down payments of just 3% or less. This chart shows how those loans gradually increased.
Having everyone own a home is not the American dream. It's the dream of the National Association of Realtors.
The National Association of Realtors wants you to take advantage of the $8,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit.
So, given all the foreclosures, did government stop subsidizing housing? No.
Honey, there's $8,000 in here.
We haven't learned the simplest lesson, which is we ought to stop fiddling with the housing market.
No, we haven't learned that lesson. Nor have we learned not to fiddle with the automotive market and the livestock market and college sports and healthcare and fuel and stadiums and credit cards and all the things that government promises to make better while really making them worse. And that's the number one promise gone wrong. These guys say they'll be fiscally responsible, and then we elect them and they spend more. They're spending us into bankruptcy. There must be 10,000 harmful programs, and yet they keep creating more. Why can't we cut them?
Every one of those 10,000 programs has a lobbyist in Washington.
And each lobbyist will spend big to preserve his program.
They've got these TV commercials with the soft music and rugged farmers producing these products.
And those lobbyists,
they always know when the bill is up before Congress, and they send political contributions. They send people to Washington to lobby, but the rest of us don't do that. Look at the Tea Party. They say don't spend so much money, but they don't have signs out there saying stop the Cash for Clunkers program, stop the ethanol program, stop the Title IX subsidy program. You could do a whole show on people should be more engaged, people should be better citizens. But the fact is we have lives, and there's no way that any normal person can know about the 10,000 programs that make up the $3.5 trillion federal budget.
And so the programs keep growing, and we must pay for their cost and their unintended consequences forever.
Unless there's a new wind blowing in America, a new attitude, a new expectation that maybe Washington should do less. I hear there is. I sure hope so. That's our program for tonight. I'm John Stossel, hoping for a restoration of freedom. Good night.